An Oklahoma judge ordered pharmaceutical giant Johnson & Johnson to pay more than $500 million for its role in the state's opioid crisis. The CBC's Megan Batchelor is on the story. She joins me now with the latest. Megan, this is being called a landmark verdict. How has Johnson & Johnson responded?
Well, Carol, as I'm sure you can expect, Johnson & Johnson does not agree with this decision. It says that it is being targeted as a scapegoat in the opioid epidemic in the United States. But regardless, it is widely being considered one of the most significant decisions regarding the opioid epidemic in the United States. This is the first case to go to trial accusing an opioid drug maker of being responsible for the devastating consequences of the crisis. And so an Oklahoma judge ruled today that the state attorneys in that state did meet its burden of proof, proving that Johnson & Johnson and affiliated companies created an imminent danger to the state of Oklahoma and its residents. It created a public health crisis. And so it's ordered now that the company has to pay $572 million to abate the crisis moving forward. This decision follows a 7-week trial there was no jury involved at all. And it is alleging that the marketing practices by the company helped fuel this crisis. Here's more of what the judge had to say about his decision.
The opioid crisis is an imminent danger and menace to Oklahomans. My judgment includes findings of fact and conclusions of law that the state met its burden, that the defendants, Janssen and Johnson & Johnson's misleading marketing and promotion of opioids created a nuisance.
And so the money is going to go towards abating this crisis moving forward. Originally, the lawyers had asked for $17 billion, but the judge said that the state couldn't prove just how much was going to be needed after 1 year. And so the $572 million will cover 1 year following this decision. So the state's case alleged that Johnson & Johnson was a kingpin and argued that its marketing efforts created a public nuisance as doctors overprescribed opioids. And here's more of what the state's lawyer had to say about his case.
We have proven that Johnson & Johnson built its billion-dollar brand out of greed and on the backs of pain and suffering of innocent people. We showed how the company repeatedly ignored warnings by the federal government and its own scientific advisors about the dangers of its drugs and the risks of marketing its products in the way it did.
Also a part of the state's case is they say that since the year 2000, over 6,000 Oklahomans have died because of the opioid crisis, and one of the lawyers working on this case knows that all too well. His oldest son died from an opioid addiction, and today was a very emotional day for him. Take a listen.
I think my son and Austin are celebrating today, and we got to get help to these other kids. So I'm very grateful. Depends on what, these other companies do now. Am I optimistic? No, I'm not. I think they'll appeal this thing and fight till hell freezes over. But my boy and Austin are fighters, and we are too.
And this litigation and this decision being watched by a lot of other states and their attorneys, as there are around 2,000 opioid lawsuits pending before a federal judge in Ohio before a trial in October. As far as Johnson & Johnson goes moving forward, they're asking that this amount of money, the $572 million, be put on pause as they now go forward with an appeal in today's decision, Carol.
Megan, thank you.
You're welcome.